Hello, and welcome to my 50 for 50 series. Here is Imodane the Pyrohammer. She costs 2 red and 2 colorless. She's a legendary human knight, and she is angry, ready to burn you. Whenever an instant or sorcery spell you control that targets only a single creature deals damage to that creature, Imodane deals that much damage to each opponent. So, this is definitely a unique commander. There's going to be tons of interesting and really cool games you're going to play. There's so many wild combos, there's so many interactions that they just go nuts. It's nutty. And it's really good versus creature decks. However, she is mono red, which can fall behind and you don't have a lot of defense. Some people get mad because this deck is kind of group slug and people can get their feelings hurt. And lastly, it's not exactly easy to win with this commander. The rules for the series are simple. The total cost of the deck must be less than $50 and does not include the cost of the commander or cost of basic lands. And as you can see in the bottom of the screen, this deck clocks in at a $49.82 cost. And for the setup, we're running 32 basic mountains and 3 non-basics for a total of 35 lands, which will work well with our mana rocks. And for the mana rocks, we have Arcane Signet, we have a stinky old Fire Diamond, and we have a Liquid Metal Torque, which is great because we have a lot of artifact removal, and this will make things artifacts. We have a Mind Stone, and a Wayfarer's Bauble. Now for getting through our deck, drawing cards, and getting things going, our engine of course, we have a couple cards. And here is Warcrafting. Basically this card deals 5 damage to a target creature, planeswalker, or battle, and it lets you look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the excess damage dealt this way. You may exile one of those cards and put the rest on the bottom of your library, you don't lose them, and you may play the exile card this turn. So basically it's a burn spell where you kind of draw a card, and again, it's to your next turn, which is pretty nice. Then we have Tormenting Voice, Old Trusty. Basically you discard a card and draw 2 cards. Witch's Mark is pretty much the same thing as Tormenting Voice, except you get a Wicked Roll token, which is a +1/+1 aura. And here we have Ren's Resolve, which is a 2-mana sorcery. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. So, you get a little bit of time to play those, and 2 mana for 2 cards is pretty good. Big Score, as additional cost to cast a spell. Discard a card, draw 2 cards, 2 treasure tokens for 4 mana. Nice instant. Demand Answers is a nice spell. It's basically Tormenting Voice, but an instant, and if you don't want to discard a card, you can just sacrifice an artifact. And you draw 2 cards. And much like Big Score, Unexpected Windfall is a 4 mana instant. Discard a card, draw 2 cards, and create 2 treasure tokens. So we definitely want to protect our commander because it's mono red and we don't want to be casting it over and over again. And if we do, there's ways around that. But we want to keep our commander on the board and we want to keep the pressure. So we do have a couple things. Obviously we have a Swiftfoot Boots, which is great. It gives a hexproof. Lightning Greaves is a cheap way to give our creature Shroud, protected. And here's a card I think is very undervalued in a lot of commander decks. I think it fits well in our deck. Campfire, if you've never heard of it. 1 mana, you gain 2 life. No big deal. But its second ability is great. 2 mana, exile Campfire, put all commanders you own from the command zone and from your graveyard into your hand, then shuffle your graveyard into your library. The graveyard part I'm not really concerned about. In fact, I want to keep stuff in our graveyard with this deck, but say your commanders died 2 times, you're already at 8 mana. That's a lot of mana, and this gets it back in your hand. Tyrite Sanctum, believe it or not, this card has actually carried me a couple games. It takes a while to set up. It gives you colorless mana. You pay 2, target legendary creature becomes a god, in addition to its other types. Put a +1/+1 counter on it. And for 4 mana, sacrifice Tyrite Sanctum, put an indestructible counter on target god. So it's going to take 2 or 3 turns to get this going, but it's nice to have an indestructible counter on it. And like I said, it saved my commander plenty of times. Removal. Obviously, we're playing a mono red burn deck. We're going to have a lot of damage. We're going to have a lot of creature removal with that damage. But, of course, there's other things we need to worry about besides dealing damage. And, for the record, we do have Mizzium Mortars, which can kind of be a board wipe. And, of course, the classic Blasphemous Act. Shatterstorm. Destroy all artifacts. They can't be regenerated. Simple and effective. 4 mana. Sorcery. Need I say more? And we have a Braid, which deals 3 damage to a creature or destroys an artifact. And the ever popular Chaos Warp, which can take care of pretty much anything. So Imodane is dominating the battlefield. She's burning everyone alive. Time to end the game. What are we going to do? Well, one of the best techniques at ending the game is having enough life so you last long enough to end the game. And there's 3 ways to do that. Basilisk Collar, it's a 1 mana artifact, quick cost of 2. It gives you Death Touch and Lifelink on Imodane, which, oh boy. Let me tell you, there was one game I played where I cast, what's the spell? So last time I played this deck, it was pretty awesome. Just one spell, I cast Into the Maw of Hell, which is a 6 mana sorcery, destroy target land. Into the Maw of Hell deals 13 damage to target creature. I gained 39 life just on one spell, and they lost their land. How can you beat that? We also have Batterbone, which is a little pricey because it's a 2 mana artifact with living weapon. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 vigilance and lifelink. Equip 5, so it's going to be pricey, but again, it's a cheap way to give your commander lifelink. And one of my favorite cards in the deck, I just think it's a cool card overall, is Butcher's Cleaver. It's a 3 mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +3/+0, and as long as equipped creature is a human, it has lifelink. And of course, Imodane is a human. It's also nice to know that when you have things like Tyrite Sanctum, which give your commander indestructible, you can swing or block and just gain incremental life. It's pretty awesome. And hey, meat is meat. Don't forget that. Another all-star in this deck is Meteor Swarm. Deals 8 damage divided as you choose among X target creatures and or planeswalkers. We're going to target 1 creature, so our commander ability works with this, but 8 damage for 4 mana? That's awesome. Shiva Media is also super powerful. Deals 13 damage to target creature. That's a lot. You can suspend it, but I mean, it's only 2 mana cheaper. I'd rather just cast it. That way you know there's going to be a target for it when it pops off. Burning Earth is a nice card in our deck because we only have 3 non-basics, and this damage can rack up fast. This is one of the cards in the deck I don't think will last in the table long. Someone will get rid of it. But, man, it does some work. Clocking in at 2 red and 1 mana. Enchantment Repercussion, basically, it's your commander's ability. Whenever a creature is dealt damage, Repercussion deals that much damage to that creature's controller. So basically, if this is out, your commander's going to do double damage. And I don't expect people to let this happen, so if they don't have enchantment removal, it's going to be bad news for them. Chandra's Incinerator can be brutal. It's a red and 5 colorless creature. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total amount of non-combat damage dealt to your opponent's this turn. So basically, you can almost cast this for 1 red mana, maybe 1 red mana, 1 colorless. It has trample, you're not going to be attacking with it, but whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, Chandra's Incinerator deals that much damage to target creature or planeswalker that controls. Basically, it's an extra burn spell to kill a creature. There's also some great interactions like Brash Taunter and Stuffy Doll, plus any burn spell. Both these creatures are indestructible, and both these creatures deal damage back to your opponents when you deal damage to them. So if there's no creatures on the board for you to target, you have your own. Copying spells can be really powerful in this deck. For example, Reverberate, we all know that card. Copy target instant or sorcery spell. But Dual Strike, that's a hidden super duper gem. It's an instant with foretell cost of 2, which means you can just play this on turn 2 and save it for the rest of the game whenever you need it for its particular purpose. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell with converted mana cost 4 or less this turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for that copy. So for example, let's say it's late game, you got 10 mountains out, Seismic Strike, 20 damage everywhere, Unexpected Windfall, draw 4 cards, get 4 treasure tokens, and let's say there's some pesky enchantment that's given life gain or preventing targeting things, you get 2 Chaos Warps. You can usually take care of whatever you need. Copying spells, pretty powerful. And the last thing I'm going to talk about here in this video is the Ultra Mega Super Saiyan, I mean, out of this world, devastating, destroying finisher is Radiant Performer. Now this card has Flash. It's a human wizard for 5 mana. When Radiant Performer enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, choose target spell or ability that targets a single permanent or player. Copy that spell or ability for each other permanent or player the spell or ability could target. Each copy targets a different one of those permanents and players. Now remember, Imodane states that whenever an instant or sorcery spell you control, not cast, control, targets a single creature. I have not been able to pull this off yet. I came close once, but the game ended before I could untap, and I would have killed everyone. Let's say you cast a simple burn spell, like Flame Slash, and let's say there's 10 total creatures on board. And then you cast Radiant Performer. You just did 120 damage, 40 to each opponent. That might knock everybody out. Now imagine you also have lifelink. That is an insane swing, and it's just a brutal spell combo. I hope this video helps. I found this commander was harder to win with than I thought, but it's super fun. It can be difficult because you're a mono red deck, but you can get there. Let me know if you have some suggestions on cards or if I got something wrong. And if you want more MTG content, click the subscribe button. I got 48 more decks to go in this series, and I'm not stopping. That's all, folks. See you in the next one.